asked on my Facebook page, I said, what tangle should we learn to do next? And my good friend Amy Gill said, we should learn to do Holobah. And she was absolutely right, because Holobah, which is this tangle, is an important tangle. It's important because it's one of the best ways to learn the whole idea of tangling behind. Let me give you an example of how Holobah can look in a variety of different tangles. This is also Holobah, and you'll notice that there are other ribbons behind. Now, you start with one ribbon, and that's this ribbon, or this ribbon, whatever ribbon is on top, and then you're going to put these other ribbons in behind that first ribbon. Hallibaugh is named for the husband of Molly, who is Maria Thomas's daughter, and he's an architect, as I understand it, and so he came up with this idea that became the tangle Hallibaugh. So let's get started. Okay, now I'm going to draw what will be a fake Zentangle tile here. And for this particular lesson, I don't need to put dots in the corner or any of that, because my goal is just to show you Holobah and how it works. I'm going to put this rag down so that I don't get ink all over me. So Holobah is basically a ribbon, or it could be a board suspended in space. So you start, you make one line. Now once you've made one line, you're not totally committed, because you can choose to make the second line on either side. So I think I'm going to do the second line on this side. Now, as I said, the point of Holobah, or the reason it's so important to learn, is because the next steps are all going to be behind this first image. So tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to color my Holobah in if I can. Let's see if I've got enough ink to do that, so it seems more solid to you. Okay, so there's Holobah, and that's the area we don't want to cross. So to do another step in Holobah, I need to go behind it. So I'm going to start here, and this is a kind of awkward drawing position for me, so you're going to get a lot of wobble, but that's okay. And see, when I get to this one, I slightly lift my pen and continue. Boy, that's pretty cool, but you know what? We got a lot of room left on this page. How about if I do Holobah over here? And once again, like I said, this is a very awkward way to draw. So now I have 3 pieces of Holobah. Oh, you know what? I think I want to fill this area in. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go pretend to go behind this and go down here and pretend and go like that. The reason that Holobah works is because our mind continues the story. In our mind, we know that this is continuing, even though it's partially hidden. It's something about the human mind. When I teach story and storytelling, I say, you know, what if you pass what looks like a car on the side of the road, and then you see somebody on a stretcher? What would you think? You would think there'd been an accident. Well, maybe not. Maybe the car's parked on the side of the road because somebody is gathering flowers, and maybe the stretcher is there because somebody wanted to move things around in the back of a truck. But our mind makes stories, and it's the same way with images. So here, our mind wants to continue this image, and our mind wants to continue this image, right? And all of these are examples of Holobah. Now, There's a prettier way to do Holobah though. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to make my Zentangle tile, my fake tile. And one of the prettiest things about Hallibaugh is to use aura-ing, which is drawing a line parallel to an outside edge. So let's do Hallibaugh like this. And then I go back and I put another line. Whoop. That is not parallel, but I think you get the point. Let me turn this around. Now the key is when you're doing this, you have to make sure that this white area does not get too narrow, because if it gets too narrow, you're going to wind up with just one thick line rather than two thin lines, or two parallel lines, and that's always pretty tricky stuff, is doing that. Now remember what I told you? I just kind of trace, I lift my pen, but I just move my hand. If I don't pick up my arm, then I almost always guarantee that I'm going to wind up where I should have been if this was real. So here. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to do the parallel line on the outside. Flip this around. Again, that's why Zentangle tiles, the tile is so wonderful, because you can turn the tile around. Okay, and now let's do one this way. There you go. So now we have 3 pieces of Hallibaugh. Now, you don't have to continue doing it with this border. In fact, I could do a Hallibaugh. I could totally change things up by making this one much more curved. That one's not only curved, it looks like it's pregnant or something. It's going like that. And make it solid and not add any trim. Now, how about if I do one like that over here? Cool, huh? I suggest that you practice Holobah as much as you can, because learning that concept of things being layered is so helpful as you go on in Zentangle. The other reason to practice Holobah is that Holobah is a great tangle for connecting one Zentangle pattern to another. So this is Holobah. Okay, so let me show you Hallibaugh as it looks on paper. Here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this the size of a Zentangle tile. Ooh, I really decorated the back of that tile. By the way, you're always supposed to put your initials on a Zentangle tile, but I also like to put the date. It's kind of a neat way of keeping track of what you were doing when. And your initials, in Zentangle language, they actually call it your chop, which is like the Chinese chop, that symbol. So for me, so it's JCS, I do it like this. So you'll see different people's chops and you'll get so that you can recognize them. Okay, now back to Hallibaugh. Although your natural impulse might be to make Hallibaugh of really straight lines, Hallibaugh actually looks best if there's a little bit of curve to it. It looks best that way because there's a little more dynamic movement. And as much as possible, you want to get movement in your art. Keep it from being static and boring. Now you'll notice that this Holobah got wider at the bottom and narrower at the top. That's fine. Things happen to Holobah. You just never know. Poor Holobah. I made it pregnant. I've made it wider at the bottom than the top. I think that's pear-shaped when it comes to fashion, right? This Holobah has a pear-shaped body. All right, let's go like this, like this, like this. Now, isn't that cool? And I mean, it's just one tangle. All right, and here I'm going to make Hallibaugh kind of rotate through. Come on, Hallibaugh, you can do it. You can do it. Come on, come on. You can make it there, there. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a little trim work. Oh, Hallibaugh, all dressed up. It's a messy dress. Messy dressy. Da. Whoop. Oh, I almost went over the line there. Not quite, but almost. And now we're going this way. Sometimes people say to me, well, I can't do Zentangle because I have a trimmer. Well, guess what? There are days when I have a trimmer. And some days my Zentangle looks a little wonkier than others. I can tell you this, it's never a good idea to try and do very exacting Zentangle after you've had 2 cups of coffee, a Diet Coke, and your asthma inhaler. Because then the only tangle that you'll be able to do is something that looks like a high frequency electric problem. Oh, I screwed up. Now, classically in Zentangle, they say there's no thing as a mistake. So what I could do is I could blacken in this entire tangle if I wanted to. And that would work. So here we have Holobah, and I'm going to write the name for you again. And I urge you to take some time practicing it. And I will show you some shading tips for Hallibaugh. I'm using a very crummy pencil, but that's okay. That's not important because it has a soft lead. So you start very close to the overlap of the line, right? And I'm even going to use a crummy eraser. And you want this to kind of fade out. And then over here, well, first let's do the other end. Everywhere that there's an overlap, you want a shadow. And you notice my tortillon looks suspiciously like my finger. Well, I think it was Rick Roberts who said, the great thing about my finger is it's always there for me to use. You don't have to search for it. At least typically we don't. Now, do a little more shading there. And let me show you something interesting. So I'm going to darken this. I'm going to come about halfway, but not all the way. I'm not going to color in the entire line there. I'm going to make it really dark there at the back. This, smear it. And you'll notice that that makes almost a shine in the ribbon. And watch. I've now given the ribbon a little bit of 3 dimensions, right? Particularly the darker I can get this. Now it looks like a shiny ribbon, but back here it would be in the shade, so this whole part I'm going to shade in because it's got 2 things overlapping, not just one. And then this ribbon continues over here. Right? I think most people, when it comes to the Zen part of Zentangle, find the shading part to be the part that gives them the most kind of emotional satisfaction in terms of calmness. You can feel it kind of take over. Once you get into it, it's kind of like the only thing in the world is you and your project. I want that to be even a little more white. And here I'm going to make this a little white too. Now there are much better erasers than the dirty end of the pencil that you just grabbed, believe me. But that's not really our point. I think if there's anything you can learn from me, I hope that it will be that you can make art from just about anything. It's great to have great materials, and it's a wonderful thing to ask for Christmas or for your birthday for nicer materials. But the truth is, there's art to be had in everything we look at in this world. It's just our job to find it. And how cool is that, huh? And now I'm going to do this Holobah. I'm going to start pretty light. And I'm leaving. Now notice the part where the shine is the part that would be buckled up because dark things recede and light things pop forward. So my goal is to make the light area, which would be the area that would be popped up if I had a real ribbon sitting there, right? How's that? See how you get that sense of shape and shade? I wonder if I can clean that up. And this is the fun part to me of Zentangle, is taking something that's pretty simple, pretty basic, and making it much more interesting, such as I'm doing here. Now this particular crossing, we've got a lot of crossings going on here for this poor little Hallibaugh in the back. I don't know if you've got multiple Hallibaugh. Is it a Hallibaugh? Hallibaughs? Hallibabies? Hallibabies? Little baby Hallibaughs. Itsy bitsy baby Hallibaughs. Okay, all right. Okay. I'm going to turn it this way because I like moving that way better. Now this would be pretty dark because this poor guy is last in line. He got there last when the spots were handed out. And so, when did I make that mark? I don't remember that. That's interesting. Well, duh. Okay. I really like using an eraser to lift out the graphite. I just think that it works really well. Let's see if I can find a cleaner eraser. Hang on a sec. Okay. So if I lift a little bit out here, and I lift a little more out here. Do you remember these? They call them pink pearls, and I think every year when I started school, you got a new pink pearl. I don't know why they call them pink pearls. I guess that's the name of the company or something. I don't know. My sister, the art teacher, would know, but I do not. So you go back in with the eraser a little and kind of use it to give you a little edge. As you can tell, I'm getting into this, perhaps too much. Just go back until I get it the way I want. I'm doing very light hatch marks. Now see, I like that. I just made the little kind of light scratches with my pencil, and that way I've got a little bit of dimension, a little bit of shade, but it's not very much. And then I'm going to feather this a little bit. Ooh, this one really looks like it's buckling out, doesn't it? And then the little light hatch marks. Feather this. And so you can see it's not perfect. Definitely not perfect. At least not yet. But I'm winding up getting that sense of 3 dimensions. I'm winding up with a sense of one ribbon being behind the other and one being in front. And that's what you want to aim for with your shadowing. Now let me give you an example where I did a pretty good job, and that was here. And you can see how the shadow in the light color here makes this ribbon look like it's coming out, and then it looks like these ribbons are back in the back. Another thing about items in the back is, if you notice, no matter where you look, if you look out on the horizon, the farther away from us something is, the less colorful it is, the less vibrant the colors are. Things get a little more gray and murky as they move to the back. So you'll notice that this color is bright and this color is bright, but these in the back have more black to them. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, so I've got these ribbons and then I've got this big open space. Well, what do I do with that? Well, if you want, you can add print hump. That's a print hump that's closed for business. This is a COVID print hump, I guess, right? Remember, we want to make it look like it's behind, so just kind of fill that in. By the way, if you get really close to another line but not quite, don't try to stroke it, just dot it with your pen. It's funny because just dotting something like that will usually close up whatever space you have. I don't know how long it took me to learn that. I was always trying to stroke, get the pen stroke just in there just perfectly, and it rarely worked. So we'll do some more little print humps that are closed. Print humps that are closed. These kind of remind me of baby ears. And that's probably because there's a seashell. That's not very good, is it? A seashell that I often find on the beach, and it's called baby ears. And that's exactly what it looks like. It's like a fat little print hump. Whoop. You get the point. So you could do that. You could fill in the background with print hump, or you could fill it in with poke leaves. Right? And if you want to make this look even more interesting, what you can do is you can go back and blacken in between some of the print top. And that will give it more drama, because anytime you add some heavy black where you've got white and gray, that's going to give things a real pow visually. So look at these little print tops now that I'm going in there and coloring around them. Ooh, aren't they cute? I can even give that one a little haircut. Right? Oh, little baby print tops. There they are. There they are. See how neat that could look? I think I'll work on this some and show you it next week. But I want to show you one more thing before I tell you goodbye, and that is, I want to show you this. Hang on. Now, why do I want to show you this? I drew this while I was sitting at a restaurant with my son and his wife and my husband. And the reason that I want to show you this is you can do Zentangle anywhere and with just about anything. This is an index card that I had in my purse, and the pen is just a regular fountain pen. So I'm sure that some of you could use a little bit of relaxation, a little bit of Zen in your life. I hope you'll work on your Zentangle, and I'll be back with you next week.